questions, I will recognize myself for 5 minutes. Now, this is for anyone on the panel, or all of you on the panel. Do you believe an American citizen is due their day in court before they lose a constitutional right?
Yes.
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 This is for the whole panel as well. Do you believe that veterans fought to defend those constitutional rights?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you believe that veterans have been trained on how to handle a gun?
Yes.
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 Do you think it's logical to assume that veterans are better suited to handle a gun safely compared to the average citizen?
Yes.
Probably.
Okay, given that, do you think a veteran, at the very minimum, should have the same due process rights as every other American before they lose their constitutional right?
Yes.
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 Okay. With that being said, remember what we're trying to do here. What we're trying to do is make sure that it is not, regardless of what was said earlier, a bureaucrat, but a court of law that makes a decision to remove a constitutional right based on evidence that is found. Ms. Keenan, will you please elaborate on the consequences of the VA current practices of reporting veterans with a fiduciary to the NICS has had with respect to perpetuate the broken veterans stigma?
Thank you, Chairman, for that question. The current VA process of referring veterans to the NICS list has created mistrust with veterans in regards to VA mental health care. And when we talk about suicide prevention, there are risks to veterans not seeking mental health care. So we want to consider that as a factor. We want to encourage veterans to come to VA for their mental health care, and if that trust is broken, then we also look at this as a suicide marker. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carey, are you familiar with the research done by Dr. Swanson, and do you have any comments with that?
Well, yeah, I did read over I appreciate him attaching the report, the Informing Federal Policy on Firearm Restrictions. And I think there's some, methodological issues here that may overestimate the amount of positive flags. For the proxy regarding illicit drug use, it's any diagnosis of drug abuse except alcohol. In the substance use disorder cases that I've seen, not only is it comorbid to have alcohol and illicit drug abuse, but alcohol itself is pretty darn bad. And in the example that he used in his study, in the case of Clennon v. Shinseki, it was about cannabis. And basically, the court was deciding that the fiduciary ruling was adequate because the continued cannabis use is detrimental to Mr. Clennon's further progress and needs to be stopped. Now, at the same time, this committee, the Senate Committee, Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, have been discussing how to expand the availability of cannabis for veterans. And so where does this stand? On the IQ based, there is for all these proxies, 74 were flagged as hitting the IQ proxy, but only 14 of them were flagged as having a suicide risk. 72 were flagged as hitting the substance abuse proxy, but only 14 of them were flagged as suicide risks. Of the 294 who reported violent behavior, only 13 of the IQ flags, 18 of the substance abuse flags, and 39 of the severe mental illness flags were classified to be at risk of fiduciary need. And Dr. Swanson goes through and points out a number of limitations to his studies, such that self-reported suicidal ideation and troubling controlling violent behavior do not directly assess the risk of misusing a firearm. And the public safety case for a putative risk-based reporting to NICS is weaker for veterans identified solely by the illicit drug abuse proxy or intellectual impairment. So I think this lines up with the VA study that I talk about in my report, that in my testimony that goes on about how there's really no statistically significant predictive methodologies.
Thank you. My time has expired. Ranking member, I'm recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.